Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Leaving a Rich Legacy with Jessica. I'm your host, Jessica Rich. And as you all know, this podcast is a love letter to my younger self. We talk about various topics that we don't often discuss in the Black and Brown community. And it really came from just my own self love, self care, and healing journey, and the conversations that I wish I would have had when I was a kid, a teenager, and even in my early 30s. So I am super excited for my guest today, Cassandra. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi. Thank you for
So why
having
don't you
me.
start off and just tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Cassandra?
Yeah, so that's the interesting question, right? I can tell you that first and foremost, I'm a mother. I am the mother to Noah, one and only, 7-year-old boy mom. I believe that I'm God's favorite. Don't for y'all out there that say now I'm his favorite. I'm his favorite. Okay, let me just have this moment. Let me just have it. And then I'm just a servant. I know I've been called to do some things, and so I am just here to be obedient and in alignment with God. I finally got that part right, so I'm gonna be obedient these days so that I
Ah,
can do what God has called me to do.
so I love that. How you introduce yourself, because I think how we define ourselves and like describe who we are really reflects to our journey, but then how in tune we are with our purpose and our passions, and to your point, being obedient and what we're called to do. So love, 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 love that. So you are also a coach. And you are coaching with you do some career coaching, and I know that you also are in the domestic violence space to provide support. So what led you to coaching?
So honestly, I have a full-time job too. So I got a good corporate job, and being a member of leadership, one of the things that I enjoy most about it is the people part, right? Being able to help employees get to that next level, being able to support them in that journey. I really enjoy writing the resume part of it because you really get to see it come full circle. When you can write that resume and then they can go in there and speak to the things that they've done from that resume and actually secure that job, that just does my heart so much good. So that's really the journey that led me towards the coaching piece, to be quite honest. I really started out really focused on the career piece. But what I identified as I began coaching is that oftentimes we show up for a coaching session thinking we're going to talk about X, Y, and Z, or that is the issue or the problem or the challenge. And we then get into that session and all kinds of things come up, right? And so there's a ton of coaches out there. There's a ton of titles that can be attached to it. I call myself a leadership development and conflict coach because I feel like those are my two strong areas to help guide and support people in.
So a conflict coach.
Mhm.
Tell me, what exactly does that include?
So honestly, let me tell you how that came about. That came about. So I'm certified in mediation. And as I began to go down this mediation journey, because of my own personal dealings in the courtroom space from a domestic violence standpoint, so as I began to go down this journey about mediation, the conflict piece came up. And I was already in my executive coaching program, and I was trying to identify what my niche was going to be, like what area I really was going to be specific in with coaching. And so I found that the two really, really mesh well, sticking with the leadership development and the conflict piece, because a lot of times everything is about communication. Every single thing is about communication. So if we communicate something wrong, it causes conflicts. If we don't communicate, it causes conflicts, right? And so I was able to take some certification classes at SMU, Southern Methodist University here in Dallas, and get certified in that space. And I just think that they flow really, really, really well together. But it came about because of my own journey I was on, having to navigate through the court system, quite honestly.
That's good, because in life, just in general, we are going to naturally experience conflict, and some people will shrink, some people will avoid it, And I do think that it puts us in a box and can seriously, prevent people from going on to do things that they desire, to grow, whether that's professionally or personally. So conflict is huge. And I don't think many people realize how a lot of people avoid conflict or don't know how to have conflict resolution. So have you seen success now that you've found your niche, right? And you're merging that, have you seen success with the individuals that you've been working with?
Yeah, I think how cool is it? So with my one-on-one conflict coaching, you actually have an opportunity to walk through the conflicts, right? So if it was something that happened in the past and you're coming to me because you're saying this continues to happen and I really wish I could deal with this better. I really wish I could show up differently when I find myself in these situations. We literally do sort of a role play, and it's a whole process that we walk through over the course of 7 to 8 sessions. And we walk through that particular issue so that you can show up better. And I think what happens is you have a lot of aha moments when you're going through that process, because when we're in conflict, we don't really ever consider the other side. We want what we want. We're upset about what we're upset about, and we're trying to get our point across. We're not trying to hear nobody else, to be quite honest. We're trying to get our point across because we want to be heard. But when you have an opportunity to just really sit, no pressure, and go through that conflict. So if it's something in the past, or maybe it's something that you are preparing yourself for. So, like for me, it was I have to prepare myself to go sit in this room with someone that I currently don't like, right? And I have to be able to have this conversation, stay professional, stay calm, take my emotions out of it. So for me, it was a future conflict, right? So I was trying to prepare for a particular conversation that I knew would be that will pull on my emotions. So with my clients, I do see success in it because there's nowhere else can you go and prep for the conflict that you think you gonna have, or where else can you go and actually work through something that you've already done that you know you didn't show up the way you wanted to.
That's good. And I love the role playing. I found just in my career, role playing for difficult conversations, whether that's for your peers, leadership, or customers, really, really can help you become more comfortable and articulate exactly how you're feeling, what you want to get across. So I love that piece.
Yeah.
So in addition to the conflict coaching and leadership coaching, you also are in the domestic violence support space. So this month is domestic violence awareness. And I've seen that you are really trying to get individuals together to be on panels and speak about that. So tell me a little bit about you and how one you came to this space and what you do for domestic violence victims.
So I am a survivor of domestic violence. I like to consider myself a conqueror. Survivor, conqueror, call yourself what you want. But it was a very difficult season, a difficult time, and sometimes it still is in that space. And so I started an organization, a 501(c)(3) called the Ark of Noah. Noah is my son, and I named it sort of after him because he saved my life. Right. For me, the light bulb came on after I had him, and I knew that I needed to get out of the situation or that relationship that I was in. So he's my little lifeline. So I named the organization after him. But what we really do is we are called to provide services to those impacted by intimate partner violence. So that can be domestic violence and sexual assault. And we try to fill in the gaps of some of the larger organizations. So one of the big programs that we run is our Google certificate program, where we are a nonprofit Google partner, and we're able to offer their 5 or 6 certificates at no cost to our clients. And what that does for our clients, one of the main reasons a woman or someone in a situation of domestic violence may be afraid to leave is because they don't have the foundation or the financial independence or support to leave and then be able to take care of themselves or their children and their family, right? And so we step in and we help them get this Google certificate, and then we walk them through that journey of, once they've completed the certificate, we're doing workshops on branding, we're doing workshops on professional etiquette, we're doing workshops on resume writing, we are doing workshops on introducing them to LinkedIn, because a lot of them have either never had a corporate type job, or hasn't been in the workplace for a very long time. And so we're doing those workshops to really support them fully after they get their certificate. So that's just one of the programs that we kind of walk our clients through, and it has been super, super, super successful, because my goal is to help, and I'm saying women because majority of survivors are women in the domestic violence space. But my goal is to help them find independence, right? So that they don't feel like they have to be in a situation, or they have to keep their children in a situation.
Do you have clients that you support that are currently in a situation, are looking to step away, or are they just getting out of the situation?
So with the survivors, it takes a survivor on average 7 times to leave. And so our services, as with most agencies, if not all, you don't have to have already left the situation, right? You can still be in it, and we're going to still support you, and we're going to provide you the resources, because what we know about domestic violence, and really this applies to anything in life, quite honestly, you're not going to leave until you're ready to leave. It doesn't matter how many times people tell you to leave. It doesn't matter on the, as an outsider, what I can see and what I want for you and what I'm trying to encourage you to do. That doesn't matter. You're not going to leave a situation, or you're not going to do a certain thing until you are ready to do it. So we absolutely provide services to those that are still in that situation, as well as those that have successfully exited.
That's great. I had to ask because I know that, to your point, it can be difficult to leave. You may leave once and then return, so it's not just up and leaving and never turn back, which I'm sure that does happen for some, but it can be a very difficult situation. So why do you feel that it's so important to bring awareness to this topic?
So for me, here I am, very well educated, got just a whole bunch of degrees, whole bunch of graduate certificates, a whole bunch of certifications, a lot of continuing education, still out here getting stuff. Um, Looking like I've done pretty well for myself, and I have. I don't want to take anything away from the work that I have done. And living the life that I wanted to live, right? So a lot of us grow up wanting to. I'm from the hood. Let me just keep it 1,000. I'm from East St. Louis, Illinois, right? And again, I made it out. I went to college. I have all these degrees. Life looks good on paper. Life looks good on the outside. I have a great corporate job. I'm doing everything that my mother wanted me to do. My mother told me to do in order to be what society says successful, right? And I'm living in the zip codes that say success, right? So I'm in these affluent communities. I'm in Frisco, Texas, in these communities that really don't speak a lot about domestic violence, right? And I'll circle on this too after I say this, but we really don't talk, you don't hear about it happening a whole lot in these particular communities. So what I knew once I accepted the calling, because y'all, I did not want to do this, to be quite honest. I had no, I didn't think nonprofits made no money, and I ain't want to do nothing. I ain't had no time to do nothing that wasn't gonna make me some money, right? Like that's how I looked at it from a nonprofit space. When God first placed this thing on my heart, I was just like, no, I'm not gonna do it. No, thank you. Next. But I really, as I got into the court system and having to deal with the legal piece and having to deal with law enforcement, all I could think was, this could not, like, they mad at me. Like this could not be happening to everybody that walks in this courtroom with the situation like mine. There's no possible way this journey is this hard and this difficult and this unbelievable, meaning the survivor is often not believed. There's no way that this is what's happening. And so I started sitting in on court cases, open to the public. I would just sit in and listen. And OMG, it's happening. And I kept thinking, for those women or men who don't have the education that I have, who don't have the resilience that I have, where I know, go back and research what X, Y, and Z told you, right? Or keep showing up, right? Like you got to keep fighting. If you don't have that community or you don't have somebody supporting you, man, you would give up. You literally will give up, or you'll just be like, I'm gonna stay where I'm at. So I knew that that was the thing that really, really, not even, that's the thing that really, really upset me the most. And so I thought, I now know that I'm a reflection of that, right? So there are some women who are keeping quiet because they don't want to deal with the shame that may come because they're in high positions in corporate. Their friends are in high positions. The way the circles that they run in and show up in, they don't want to say behind these doors, this is what's happening, right? There's some shame there. There may be even some guilt there. I dealt with shame and guilt and fear and all of it. Those things may be there. So I know that I'm a reflection of that. So if I can help someone, they don't have to come forward publicly, but if I can help someone that's in the same situation that feels like they can talk to me because I'm like them, that's what I want to do. And a lot of the thing that I wanted to say, that I was going to circle back to, is it's been really, really open and easy for my organization to connect with organizations south in Dallas, right? So some of those southern sector areas like Cedar Hill, DeSoto, really, really easy. Those areas are predominantly African American. But in the area that I live in, it has been an uphill battle to really get connected to some of those organizations. And I don't say that to put any point on those organizations. I absolutely want to work, with them and partner with them, and pick up where there are any gaps. But I say that to say that we're out here in these particular area codes, and for those that look like me are acting like it doesn't happen, and we don't know where to go. I see it in so many Facebook groups. I see it all the time where we either don't know where to go, we're too scared to show up at these places and go. And so we're trying to get help, and we're trying to get it from Facebook. And we're not going to get the help we need from Facebook because Facebook is going to give you 1 million opinions, and you're still going to be stuck. And so that is why I eventually was obedient and answered the call that God had placed on my heart, to have this organization, because I want people that are in the same type of position or in the same type of leadership, to be courageous and be able to have somebody that they feel like they can connect to.
I love that you touched on that women who on the outside look successful. And I say women, but like you said, it's majority are women, but we know there are some men. But women who are in these high positions, these leadership positions, who on the outside looking in, we think everything is wonderful, but you never know what those individuals are going through, and that you can be a resource for them. I do hope that your organization will able to find those gaps in the in North Dallas area, because, like you said, is they're not exempt, right? Just because you look a certain way doesn't mean that it can't happen to you. So definitely hope that you'll be able to connect more with those women. But I want to touch on, you said it a couple times, and I think I can kind of relate, but I want you to kind of talk on it. So talk to me about you got a sign or something came to you like, "This is what you need to do," and you probably was kinda pushing it away, and then, it keeps nudging at you. So, what did that look like for you? And you mentioned at the end, like, that's why you decided that you needed to do it, but, like, tell me about that process, because I think there's a lot of individuals, that are battling with some powerful initiatives and purpose work that they are like, to your point, like, "This is not gonna bring me any money. I'm already working, 24, 8. So I don't have the time." So can you just kinda talk about that? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so because I have a full-time job, right? I'm a new mother at the time. I'm like, I don't have time for nothing else. So I wasn't open to really at the time, like anything, like at all. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the time. It doesn't matter that I truly know that God is giving me this. It don't matter. My answer was no, 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 and no. And I think the more difficult things got for me, because in my situation it wasn't just a I'm in this relationship and now I've successfully left it, the end. This person, I now have to co-parent with, right? And so it lingered, right? There was still more and more and more and more. And so the more I got pulled into the court system, the more I got pulled, from a legal ramification standpoint, the more frustrated and angry I got. And to be quite honest, my initial response was, I'm about to start a whole movement against this judge. I was mad, y'all. I was hot. Because again, I couldn't believe that it was happening to me, and I couldn't believe that it happens as much as it does in the courtroom. Like, y'all would be surprised at some of the decisions that are made in these particular types of cases that involve children, where to us it's black and white, like you want to keep the child safe, so these particular things should probably happen. And it just does not go that way. So in my initial thoughts, it was, I'm about to start a whole movement against this judge because this is how upset and angry I am. But it took me some time to work through my emotions of the relationship, my emotions and feelings of now having to still see this person and still forcefully talk to this person and still co-parent with this person. Whew, it was a lot to work through. So I had to get counseling. Like the whole journey, please understand, I was in counseling and I have two counselors, and I still have two counselors to this day. I have just a regular therapist, and then I have a very, very trauma specific therapist. And so I had to work through a lot of stuff to get my emotions to a particular place. Once I got my emotions to a particular place, that opened me up, right? And so now, because my relationship is stronger with God, now I am able to hear and listen to God. I ain't say that I was being obedient. I say hear and listen. The obedience part has been a journey. But now I'm open to hearing and listening from God. And He's telling me what to do, and He's telling me what to do, and He's telling me what to do. But it was so many, y'all, like I can pull out this notebook where I have written down probably years worth of programming for this organization that I have written. Some of them have already started to come to fruition, but I have years worth of programming for this organization because I kept saying no. So all I was doing was writing it down because I was trying to get it out of my head. So I was writing it down, writing it down, writing it down, and I was still saying no, and I was still saying no. And then I had a friend who I hadn't told anything about me and my little conversations with God. We were just talking one day about my situation and my growth and where I had been and yada, yada, yada. And she says, why don't you start a nonprofit? I was like, man, no, absolutely not. No. And this particular friend, she is a friend that has consistently spoken things into my life. She is she is absolutely one of my spiritual warriors, right? Like she's spoken some things into my life and she would not let up on this particular thing. And eventually it was just like, yes, just say yes. Like just stop fighting it and say yes, girl. Just say it. Just say yes. And so eventually I said yes. And even after I said yes and did all the paperwork and all of that stuff, it still took me like 5 or 6 months before I like announced it and started actually doing some of the programming for it, to be quite honest. What I will say though is I'm grateful that God never gives up, because I said no a whole lot of times. And even knowing that I was supposed to do it, and I'm writing things down, and I'm grateful for the notebook now, right? Because I can refer to it and pull from it. But whoo, I said no a lot of times.
That's a lot of people's story. May not be exactly the same, but when it's purpose work, and especially when you're called to do it, we will say no until sometimes it's somebody else, that will be that voice outside of what you're already hearing. So I think that's good. Now through that process, you've got your purpose work, and then before that you decided to leave your situation. That had to come with some grieving. So talk to me just about, what does grief mean to you, because I'm sure you had to grieve multiple things at one time. So what does grief mean to you?
Yeah, so this is a season that's near and dear to my heart. So I often talk about my fourth quarter being, so I would say, you know what, like even just about to say this now, I was gonna say my fourth quarter, the last 3 or 4 years. But quite honestly, the last decade of my life, I had a speaking engagement yesterday and I told the ladies, like, my life is a whole messimony. And I mean it. Like, I have a lot of testimonies, but it was a whole lot of mess to get to that other side, right? From a grief standpoint, man, there's just been so much. So whether we're talking about the relationship, the domestic violence relationship, to be quite honest, right? I know most people would think that, okay, you're in this bad situation, this toxic situation, you get yourself out of it, you should be happy. And it doesn't work that way, particularly if you have trauma bonds, you've been gaslit, there's a lot of manipulation. So the easiest and most basic way I can explain it without getting into all of those terms, is it's a comfortable thing, right? Like, so even when comfort doesn't just work when it's good for you, like even if it's a bad thing that's happening, it's a comfort thing. And when you're thinking about letting that rope go, or that thing that you're connected to, it is hard, which is why it takes 7 times on average for a woman to leave successfully and not go back. It is hard to kind of be out in the world and feel like you're on your own, right? You have this particular connection to the person or to the thing. And this doesn't just apply in intimate relationships. This could be a friendship. Like in the last decade, I have lost several of friends, and I don't mean loss as in they died. I mean like the friendship, right? And these are friends that, man, I would go toe to toe for it. You know what I mean? Like really part of my solid circle. And to lose those friendships, right? You don't expect to lose friendships that you feel like are really good. But sometimes when there's a shift, or God is shifting you and the seasons change, we say that little saying, everything got a season and a reason, time, until you go through it. And then you like, that was a season? Like, but they was here like all of this time. Yes, it was a season. I'm so sorry. It's gonna hurt. You're gonna have to feel it and you're gonna have to go through it. But yeah, it was a season. So that grief part can be really, really heavy. So when I talk about the whole fourth quarter piece of it for me, so in 2019, I had 5 deaths in my immediate family, and that included my mom and my oldest brother, right? And then right after that, so the last death was like in December of 2019. So all 2019, me and Noah was getting on flights going home for funerals. And again, unfortunately, it was my mom and my brother 2 of those times. And then, of course, as you know, 2020 rolls around. That March or April is when COVID hits, right? And so my mom passed in October of 2019. Her birthday is in November. My birthday is in December. So I have all these things that are sentimental to me, right, in the fourth quarter that happens. So since 2019, every time the fourth quarter rolls around, I'm like, in the first year, of course, I knew I was going to feel away in October, but it would linger and linger and linger. And I'm like, here I am in December, my birthday in December, I can't even turn up. Like, I don't have the energy. I don't want to. I'm over here sad. I don't know why I'm sad. I just woke up and I'm sad. I didn't even know this was a thing. And again, I told you I still have 2 therapists. As I began to kind of connect the dots and talk that through with my therapist, like, this is the season of grief for me, right? You got Thanksgiving in that fourth quarter, you have the Christmas in that fourth quarter. So I am subconsciously at the time like tying all of these moments and these occasions and things to the fact that I'm missing my mom, and to the fact December was the first time when I was in that relationship, and it was around 2 days after my birthday was the first time he put his hands on me in that particular year. Like, there's all of these things that I'm associating to happening in the fourth quarter, and it was wearing me out, right? And so now that I'm able to kind of identify that, I'm better equipped because I've gone to therapy and because I now talk through these things. I'm better equipped as the fourth quarter comes. I'm better than I was last year at this point in time, right? Like, last year, I'm like, oh, my mom died this time last year, and it took me weeks to kind of get out of that funk, right? That day just passed. I think it was Monday, and I'm doing okay, right? You have your ups, you have your downs, but we have to acknowledge that there's a lot of things in life that we're going to grieve. And so, again, whether that's a relationship, an intimate relationship, a friendship, it could be the loss of a job. It could be the loss of somebody that there could be some pain associated to somebody that just really hurt you, right? That you could be connecting or tying to a particular holiday or season. There's so many areas of our life that grief will show up, and we don't even fully know that it's the grief that's causing us to not be able to function the way that we normally would. I hope that
That's
answered.
yes, it does. And I'm happy you touched on that. Grief can be just, it's not just relationships, it's not just a death of a family member or a loved one, but it can be a number of things. And you talked about just Q4 is a time where you notice you kind of go through the motions. And I was thinking about the book, The Body Keeps the Score. I do a horrible job remembering who wrote that book. And I don't know why, because I reference it so much. um, but I
Somebody
was
just gave
just
me that book. Like, I
it is
haven't read it
it
yet.
is
I
an
just
it
got
is
it.
an amazing book, and it will I won't spoil it for you, but it will just show you how the body is amazing, how we it keeps the score, and the score is the traumatic events. And I was just talking to someone else who is going through exactly what you said right now, and that's because they lost family members around this time. So you're going to enjoy that book, and it really is amazing how without you even knowing, your body truly does keep score. So I'll ask you this. You mentioned quite a bit going to therapy. I'm a huge advocate of therapy. And why do you think it's important for domestic violence survivors or individuals that are currently going through it to seek some type of counseling for them, as well as if there's children that may be in the home?
because you don't know what you don't know, right? I think there's some words out there that scare us. So depression being one. But you don't know that you depressed unless you know what those signs are, unless you've seen it, right? Or you've experienced it before. All you know is that something feels off. Like I can't seem to get my energy. I can't seem to get my motivation. I can't seem like that's what you know. And that's the same way you know when something like is physically wrong. You're like, oh, my arm hurt, but it been hurting for 4 days, right? That's kind of your cue of like, maybe I need to go to the doctor. It's the same way when it comes to our mental health space, right? Like you find yourself in a rut longer than what's normal for you because it could look different for everybody. What's normal for you, that may be your key that you need to go get some help. I believe that it's so important for therapy, specifically, whether you've been in a domestic violence situation or not, is because it's just part of your normal health checks, right? Um, there are things that you're not even going to say to your best friend. There are some things that we just don't want to say out loud. Like, let's keep it, let's be honest. Let's be honest. There are some things that you plan to take to your grave because you don't want to say, because you don't want to say them. Like, you can't even bring yourself to say them out loud. And even in your most trusted spaces, like your your closest friend or your parent or whoever that person is, you still have that little bit of part of like, oh, that one thing I don't want to say, and I don't want it. I don't want to be judged, right? And then if you think about the childhood piece, I will tell you personally, for me, I don't know if anybody can relate, but going through therapy helped me to see that a lot of things that I thought was normal, it's not normal. It's not normal. Like I told you I grew up in the hood, so I've seen a lot of things, right? And I've experienced a lot of things, and a lot of things from even just an environmental standpoint that I thought this was normal. That everybody I know that grew up where I grew up, this is a normal thing. No, it's not normal. And I didn't discover that until I got into therapy and I started talking. So I went in for one reason. And then when we got to backtracking, I was like, oh, so I've been carrying X, Y, and Z all my life, which is a reflection of why I make decisions the way that I make decisions. It genuinely helps you to kind of connect those dots. I'm an advocate of having a squad. And in my squad, I got therapists. I have coaches. Coaches do different things. So I have coaches. I have mentors. I have sponsors. I think everybody should have a squad. But in that squad, you 1000% should consider or at least try it out a therapist.
Absolutely agree. So we talked a lot about the work that you're doing, you getting to this place and how you're touching, helping so many people with their lives and, being alive, right? Making that step to leave. What's the most rewarding part for you of the work that you're doing?
Pinching myself to know that I'm in it now, right? Like I'm still in it. Cause there was a season where it was just dark. It was just dark clouds. I was smiling. Like a whole lot of people didn't know I was smiling, part of that is just my makeup, right? I'm a smiler. For the most part, I'm always going to be smiling. But it was heavy. There was a lot of dark clouds, there was a lot of rainy days. And so now to be in this place where I feel like I can tell people I'm a messimony, right? I got to the testimony, but I'm able to talk about this while life is still happening in some areas of my life that are a mess. But I know that I'm going to get to that testimony side, right? So I think for me, the part that brings me so much reward is to be able to have these kind of conversations and hear myself say, yeah, you was wait, that was a while ago, but now look where you are, right? And I'm not shooting for I've made it. I'm not shooting for what success is probably for society. I'm okay. And it don't mean that I ain't got goals that I'm still trying to reach. I absolutely do. But there is no big bright star at the top of this that I'm aiming for, because this is a pretty phenomenal place to be at. And again, it's because I finally said yes to obedience.
Way that it usually be like a full circle moment because you will I'm speaking for myself. You like, nope, I don't think that's gonna work. And sometimes, and then even if you finally accept it, for me, to your like you said, it took you it's like 5 months to go ahead and get it. It's like, all right, well, I did that part, and then it'll keep eating at you. So I definitely understand that. So this is my favorite question of the podcast, and would love, love, love to hear your response. But if you could have a conversation with your younger self, what would you tell her?
How much time we got? Now I'm just like,
You got a list.
I got a whole list. Quite honestly, the one thing that really, really stands out to me, and I know I got confirmation of this because I just finished this book today. I was like, oh, yep. So I'm gonna drop this little book too because I think you should read it. It's called "Walk Through the Fire" by Sheila Johnson. So
Okay.
she was, so Sheila Johnson was the co-founder of BET. You know, it was Bob Johnson, and she was the wife. Read that book. Read that book, Jessica. Like, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but Jessica, read the book. It's so good. Nonetheless, the end of her book really helped me with my answer to this question. So one thing that I would tell my younger self, and this is my number one thing: listen to your instincts. I don't know why when we talk about instincts, we talk about it as if it is not the truth. Like, I feel like your instinct, particularly like a woman's intuition, I feel like it is God's voice, because it is very often not wrong. I can't say that it's 100% correct, right? But what I will say is that little thing on the inside, that little voice, whatever it is, whatever situation it is your stop. It's your red flag. I know this word is used a lot, but that's your red flag. It is your warning. So listen to your instincts. If I could tell my younger self, listen to your instinct, because it is going to guide you into learning about you, who you are, where you are going, and it will help direct you better than you can yourself, Flesh. So listen to your instincts. Trust your gut.
Love it. And I definitely will look into the book. I haven't heard of it, so that's a good one. That's one that I do love to ask because that's what kind of, led me to this point of this podcast. It's like things that I wish I would have known, or if I could have a conversation with my younger self. So I love it. All right, Cassandra. Well, how can people connect with you? You got multiple things going on. You have a lot of different work that you're doing. So you got career professionals and domestic violence survivors, individuals that's in it. And then you also provide some conflict. So you have a lot that you can offer. And
I
I'm
do.
sure that some of the viewers may be able to relate or want to connect with you. So how can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on Facebook and Instagram as Fear Slaying, FEAR, like fear, slaying, SLAYING, and then my last name, Cherry, CHERRY. Y'all probably like, why Fear Slaying Cherry? Because listen, y'all, fear is a real thing, and I be out here slaying it now. Not back then, but now. So Fear Slaying Cherry. And then if you want to connect with the Ark of Noah, you can find thearkofnoah.org, and you would be able to send in the contact form and connect with me that way as well.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I appreciate you for being a guest on Leaving a Rich Legacy and just sharing all the work that you're doing, but most importantly, bringing awareness for domestic violence survivors and those individuals who are currently victims. So thank you so much and look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.